knowledge is saying you understand. Performance is proving you understand. And we live in a world now where information, which is the age we came from the information, is like information, oh, right?
Yeah.
It was everything, but it's no longer everything. Now it's what can you do with the information, which is capability, which is application, which is doing, not knowing. And so building a performance platform is a very different thing than building a learning platform. You know what you do when you build a learning platform? Nothing. You put videos up and say it's a learning platform. You know what people have no problem with? Managing their learning. But yet that's LMS, stands for Learning Management System. We are not an LMS. We're a performance acceleration system. How do you create a difference? How do you build something that seems like the same thing as learning on the surface, but is completely different? And so Fuel went from being, first of all, named Sales Fuel to Fuel. And by the way, 2024, when we registered the name, nobody owned the name Fuel Inc. in the country. Is that wild?
That is
35
crazy.
or 36 million registered companies, and we were in Delaware registering the company. And they're like, yeah, there's no fuel. I was like, what? We'll take it. Because we're going to go with Sales Fuel. But then we're like, no, this is way more than sale. This is performance for anyone. So anyway, when how this all came to be is as we started to really dig into what is broken in education and training. And what's broken is when Todd speaks to an audience of 1,000 people, comes back the next year and speaks to that audience again, and out of 1,000 people, 50 have transformed, but 950 are almost the same place. That's what's broken, and that had to change. And so, in developing this platform, the big thing that Todd said works well in his coaching, in his personal coaching, I said, how come 95% of your personally coached people are doing better, and 95% of the people that hear you talk and are in your workshops are still in the same place? Why is that such? It's the exact opposite. One-on-one, they grow. In a large group, they don't grow. And he says, well, it's accountability. It's like, okay, well, how do you build accountability at scale, right? And so it was developing all of these little nuances that create accountability, but also create something that makes skill development every time. This is key. Every time you do it, your skill gets better. How do you do that? Instead of promising somebody a change in the next 6 months, like if you watch my learning stuff, you'll get better in 6 months. That's a broken model too. Why 6 months? Who invented? I'll give you another example of education that's broken. How come we go to school for semesters? Who said this topic right here is going to take you 4 months to learn? Who decided on this time scale? Like when?
Yeah.
Where individuals who are self-learners do the same thing in days. What takes people months, these people learn in days or weeks. And so we realized that all of the timing was off. And we're talking to a guy that's written 20 books. He's like, oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I don't know why. He used to say it too. He's like, well, in 3 weeks, you'll be able. I'm like, why, Todd? Why 3 weeks? He's like, I don't know. I'm like, yeah, what if we said in 10 minutes, you'll be able to do this better? It's like, oh. And here's what it comes down to, Luke. It comes down to muscle, okay? This is a muscle. These are muscles. This is a muscle. And if you're in the business of using your voice for anything to run a business, manage people, work in a team, be a parent, you have to be able to practice that muscle. And the only way that muscle works is by repetition and practice. But no, that's not how it works. That's how it gets better. But what we discovered in building this platform is just repeating something doesn't guarantee you improvement in that thing unless there's an expert that's guiding that practice. And so how did Fuel come to be as it is today? We realized that we can't teach for memory. We got to teach for mastery. And we can't let people practice things just for practice. They need to be deliberate. They're practicing for a specific thing, like a sales call, like this podcast right here, practicing the conversation before it happens so that when the real conversation happens, you look like you've practiced, right?
Yep.
Look at an athlete that never shows up to practice. It will look like that on the field. It will look like he didn't show up to practice, which is why they don't start typically if they don't show up to practice, right? And so this is how Fuel came to be: a phone call, a problem of education not working, and then through years of discovery of what works and how do we how do we steal great ideas and bring them into a new environment? Instead of inventing something new, why don't we take something that already works, proven to work, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but for over 100 years. The methodology that's inside Fuel has worked in industries for over 100 years to create top performers everywhere.